welcome back to the OCheap channel, the channel dedicated to all things cheap in the world of fragrances. In today's video, we are taking another look and review at a certain fragrance line, and these are ones that I don't see anyone really talking about. The first one maybe a little bit, so it's a little underrated, and maybe some things that you would be interested in looking at. This line is from the house of Lattafa, which everybody who's anybody knows who Lattafa is. They are an inexpensive Middle Eastern fragrance house that specialize in cloning other bigger brands and fragrances, things that are way more expensive, and they try to copy it the best they can, and they get very close a lot of times for a way cheaper price. So we as cheapy collectors and casual collectors very much appreciate the work that they do over there. Sometimes they'll have things that are very original or some things that are even a little inspired by, but not quite as the original. And these fall right along with that. They have a similarity to some other fragrances, but not quite the exact same. So it's like that, but with a twist. Enough difference where you could even have the original and this and still be able to wear them both independently. And the line we're looking at is Lattafa's Najdia line. All of them will come in this rectangle bottle with a different colorization and a leaf imprint on the front. And they all have this very generic, slide on cap that have the same kind of look to the cap. I think the first one is the only one that has this Lattafa emblem. The other ones just have a flat top, and they all will have the Lattafa perfumes almost embossed on the glass on the back, which is pretty unique. And of course on the bottom, you have your little sticker of authenticity in a way. It has a Lattafa logo, made in UAE, the certain volume, and the concentration, which all of these are eau de parfum concentrations. So they're a little step up from what you normally expect, not just an eau de toilette. And even on the sides here, they also have the same information on the bottom printed on the side of the glass. But they all come in the same style, just a slight different look and obviously a different fragrance on the inside. And you might recognize this one if you watched my first blind buy cheapy haul video where I opened up a bunch of different ones, and this was, I think, the third to last one that I opened. And you already saw my thoughts on it there, but this is kind of be a little more of a deeper dive, kind of what I've worn and what I've experienced over time while having this and my thoughts on it, and hopefully convey to you what this is like before you go out and buy it. Let's go ahead and get into it, and it all starts off with this one I'm holding. It is just regular Lattafa Najdia. So with this one, you're going to get a very bright, fresh, sweet, aquatic, ozonic fragrance. And if you saw my video, you know that I immediately saw the comparison between this and Paco Rabanne's Invictus. It very much has that super bubblegum sweet style, the same way Paco Rabanne puts in all the Invictus line and even all the clones and inspirations. After that, this is a right along with it. A little bit aromatic, a little bit woody, and a little bit spicy as well. Let's get into that note breakdown. On the top notes, you have lemon, cinnamon, apple, lemongrass, and bergamot. The middle notes you have are watery notes, lavender, cardamom, and rosemary. And the base notes you have are musk, amber, sandalwood, cedar, and tobacco. So you definitely get the lemon, the citruses, the bergamot, the apple, and also extra sweetness, probably ethyl maltol and some other things that add in to make that bubblegum citrus fruitiness on the opening very noticeable, very bright, uplifting. It is noticeably synthetic, but you wouldn't expect anything different from something like this. And you also do get that cinnamon note on the top, especially as that top note starts residing down, going to the middle and the dry down. The cinnamon actually carries along with it and comes out even more. It has a slight similarity to how Saucy Hawass is. It has that little bit of spicy Middle Eastern twist on that Invictus style, but it's not as spicy as that, and it has a little bit different of a note variation, but you still do get that cinnamon. Comes in very noticeable with that fresh, aquatic, watery notes. You can't miss it in this. Again, of course, you do get some lavender, you do get a lot of aromatics, you get that rosemary, some little more spiciness with the cardamom, and as it dries down, you do get some more of the woodiness. I can't really say that I can tell the tobacco note in this, but you definitely get the sandalwood, a little bit of that cedar, just a generic woodiness, a little bit of ambery, sweet smoothness, but overall, this is almost one-to-one with between Invictus and Wasabi Hawas. Kind of in between, back and forth, and honestly a little cheaper version of either of those. And going into performance, very loud, projecting, great opening for that first about hour, maybe hour and a half, but it quickly dries down to the rest of those notes. And honestly, on my skin, it doesn't last too long. I'd say maybe 4 hours, and that could be due to the atomizer because it's not a very good atomizer on all of these. It's a very short spray, not very wide. It's a small puff, so you will probably have to overspray to get the desired performance and projection that you want. On clothes, it may last a little longer, possibly 5, but if you're wearing this out in the summer, depending on how you're wearing it and what you're going to do, it may wear off pretty quick, but you can't complain when you're talking about the price. This is probably one of the cheaper Lattafas I've been able to find, and it's almost everywhere you look. It's on Amazon, it's on Fragrance Buy, Fragrance Net, Joma Shop, everywhere you look, on way other third-party perfume sellers. It's probably around $14. I think I picked this up for around that at Fragrance Buy. From what I remember when I first did my blind buy, I think I said I picked this up for $14, and it was actually in a gift set along with a aerosol body spray, so not too bad for all of that. And you get a full 100 ml, and it's, like I said, eau de parfum concentration, so not too bad. But if you're just looking at something that's quick, cheap, great for the summertime, bright, youthful, and fun, you really can't do any better than this. I mean, it's everything that you'd expect in an Invictus style fragrance with a little bit of that twist with that spiciness and a little bit of the denser sweetness to it. Not as bright and airy as something like Mont Blanc Legend Spirit, but it's also not as good performing as that. But it still is not too bad for that price point of, like I said, $14. Not bad at all. But the Najdia line starts off with this first one here, the regular Lattafa Najdia. Now on to the next one, which released a year after the first one, the follow-up to the first Najdia. It is this one, Najdia in Gold. So looking at the bottle, you can tell that the name Najdia in Gold is reflected in how it looks, or at least in the cap it is. It has a gold reflective cap rather than a silver one like in the first one, and the juice is more of a pinkish, almost peach color rather than the clear, almost greenish color from the first one. So what you're getting out of this one is something that to me is very floral, very sweet, a little powdery, a little aromatic, a little aquatic, fresh, almost ozonic, and a good bit of woodiness in the background. From what I smell is very different from the actual note breakdown that you can find online. I'm gonna go ahead and give you the note breakdown, then we'll talk about it. On the top notes, you have bay leaf, grapefruit, and sea notes. Middle notes are patchouli, guaiac wood, and the base notes are ambergris and oak moss. Very concise, tight note breakdown, not as extensive as the first one or as the last one, which we'll look at later. So for some reason, I get something totally different from what that note breakdown is, and maybe it's just how things are layered in it, and maybe those notes just in a different organization and how the fragrance was put together. Either that, or I have a very different batch than what was originally made. So like what the note breakdown says, I do get a little bit of aromatics. I do get that grapefruit. It is a little fruity on the front, and I do get the sea notes. It has an aquatic sea nature to it. It's very light and bright, but I don't get hardly any of the other notes it has, like patchouli and guaiac wood. I do get a little bit of woodiness, but I can't tell if it's the guaiac wood or not. The ambergris and oak moss, I do get the ambergris, again, along with those sea notes, that freshness, but I don't really get a lot of mossiness. What I do get in this though, like I said before, is a lot of florals. I get a lot of sweetness. I get some powderiness, almost like a powdered candy. Like it reminds me of Smarties or Sweet Tarts in a way. It has a way more feminine leaning kind of DNA to it than the first one, which makes sense. So to spread a little knowledge about that, I actually had a subscriber recently on one of my videos, I think it was when I did the blind buy from TJ Maxx and Ross, old Richard G commented telling me that in Arabic culture, especially in their fragrances, that gold is reflective of a woman and silver is reflective or symbolic of a man, which makes total sense now that I go through these fragrances, because I was talking about Lattafa Ram's Gold and how it smelled very feminine, and how a lot of people say Ram Silver smells like Ultramall by Jean Paul Gaultier, and that gold is feminine leaning, the silver one is male leaning. And that makes sense when you compare these two, the original Najdia and Najdia in gold. The silver one smells like the regular masculine Invictus style, and the gold one smells like this more fruity, floral, feminine, powdery style, which makes total sense to me now. So thank you, Richard G, if you're watching this, for that. It makes a lot of sense to me, and it helps me out now when I go out and buy something. I know what to expect if I see it in gold or in silver. This one definitely has that feminine leaning, and a lot of people will say that it's a little unisex, and I can see that, but there's also people who will say that this smells like Lady Tonique by Givenchy in that little round, peach colored bottle. And I've smelled that before, and I gotta say, it does smell almost exactly like that, a Givenchy style line for women. Very, very close. I think it smells a little mature. Not saying that this smells old fashioned, it just smells more like what a mature woman would smell, but I do think it's sweet enough and, lively enough where young girls can pull this off easily. And if you're a guy who likes that kind of style, you can pull this off as well. I do think it's a little unisex, but leaning more feminine. As far as performance, it's about the same as the first original Najdia. Great projection for the first hour and a half. I'd say about 5 hours or so, maybe a little longer on clothes. And as far as seasonality, I think you can wear this almost all year round. It'd be perfect for the warmer weather in spring and summer, but I can see this being pulled off in the fall as well. Like I said, it has that powdery sweetness and underlying woodiness that can carry it into colder weather. It may not cut through as much in the deep cold of winter, but you can always try it out or spray a lot more on. But I do think it's versatile for almost any occasion, for the office, for a date, for out and about, just casual wear, hang out with friends, church, meetings, gatherings, however you want to wear it. I think it fit almost any of those. It has a little bit of classiness to it because it does smell similar to that Givenchy style, so you can wear this dressed down or dressed up just as easily. I think it's the perfect follow-up to the first one, the feminine version of it. Very different style from the first one, but it does confuse me how the note breakdown does not smell anything like what I smell in this. So take what I'm saying with a grain of salt if you want to believe the note breakdown and try it out that way, or if you want to go based off of what I'm saying. I would just say try it out for yourself. A quick PSA I want to give on this one though, for some reason this version is very hard to find. I don't know if it's just been discontinued or if it's just short supply or just hardly any demand where no one wants to carry it because no one's asking for it. But the only place I could find this was on FragranceNet, but granted, it was like $16, so not bad at all. I can't find it on Fragrance Buy, I can't find it on Joma Shop. I can hardly even find it, I think, on Amazon. They may not even have it, but FragranceNet definitely does for that sub $20 price, around the same as the first one. So if you do happen to find it and you want to try it out, I suggest trying it out and see what you think. But it is the feminine reflection, the follow-up to the first one, Najdia in gold. Now on to the last one. Yes, the Najdia line only has 3, which is why I could go through this so quick. The last one is one that I actually bought first before everything, and then I saw that there was more and I slowly got the rest in, and it is one that I gotta say, I am still not sure if I like it or not, but I can respect for what it is. It is very unique. It is this one here, Najdia Tribute. So as you can tell, immediately, totally different looking bottle, still in the same style, but you have this blackout matte look to it with a kind of gunmetal colored cap, and the leaf on it is overlaid almost like that same gunmetal pewter kind of style. Really nice, almost has like a bad boy kind of feel, more serious, more dark. So when you smell it, you're gonna expect it to be the same way. So how does it smell? This is a very uber masculine fragrance. Very rough, very rugged, but yet super clean. It has an ozonic, airy nature to it, very woody, extreme on the leather, and it has a violet note in it, which we'll get into. Very noticeable, piercing violet with that leather, just punches everything through. A little aromatic, and a little deep dark as well. Let's get into that note breakdown real quick so we can get deeper into talking about it. Those top notes you have are apple, ginger, mandarin orange, and bergamot. The middle notes you have are violet leaf, gaiac wood, saffron, and cedar. And the base notes are leather, ambergris, agarwood or oud, and sandalwood. So when you first spray it, you do get a little short opening of some fruits and that citrus coming in on the top, adds in a little bit of sweetness, but it only lasts for a short moment before you are punched in the face with that violet leaf and leather combo, and with a little bit of that spiciness and that saffron coming in right behind it. It is just an assault on the senses, just come in all at once. You do get those ozonic notes coming in right behind it. It adds some good cleanness to it, and a little bit of an airiness. It helps to lighten everything without it being too dense. And as it dries down more, you do get a lot of the woods that come through, way more noticeable. I think we have a lot of different wood notes like gaiac wood, cedar, agarwood, and sandalwood. So a lot of woodiness, very heavy on that. And I will say you get a strong animalic kind of tinge between the oud and the leather. I was surprised when I smelled it. I was like, this smells like it has a little bit of an oud note somewhere in it. And sure enough, when I read the note breakdown, it was in there, which gives it that oriental, Middle Eastern kind of spin to it. And you do get the ozonic nature that comes through, cuts it and makes it a little more cleaner and a little more uplifting, but it still has a lot of that uber masculine leather and woodiness in it. Performance on this is very, very good. Way better than the first two. Very strong projection for the first hour and a half, 2 hours, depending on how much you spray, but still super strong room filling. So don't spray too much of this on unless you're gonna be around people way later, because it does dry down a little more tame, but it does last with you for a good 6, 7 hours, maybe even 8 if you spray it on your clothes a little heavier. Way better performing than the first one. But the thing with this is gonna be, it has better performance, it's stronger, but with the scent profile it's going with, it is gonna be a little cloying, or at least it was to me. And it's gonna be a little polarizing. It's not gonna be something that everyone likes. This is super, super masculine. I cannot stress that enough. A lot of people with the violet, the ozonic notes, and that leather, can you guess what it kind of reminds you of? If you guess Dior's Fahrenheit, you would be correct. This does have a lot of similarities to Dior Fahrenheit. It doesn't have as strong of that petrol kind of violet vibe that it has, but it's also not as smooth as Dior Fahrenheit. I don't think it's gonna be as dated smelling as Dior Fahrenheit, but it does still have a lot of those same facets and similarities. A little bit different, but definitely an inspiration in taking away from the popularity of that fragrance. This is more of a cheaper Middle Eastern spin and twist on the Fahrenheit style. Gotta be honest, I did not like this at first. When I bought it on a test strip, it was fine, but when I sprayed it on my skin, I wanted to wash it off quick. It was just cloying to me, almost made me a little sick, and I don't say that a whole lot, but like most Lattafa fragrances, you introduce some oxygen to it, let it sit and macerate for a while, and it usually turns out to being a lot better and smoother. And I will say that did happen to this one. It does still have a very strong opening that I don't quite agree with, but I gotta say, as it dries down way into that dry down, where it's a little more tame, not as loud, and everything melds a little more easy together, it does come off a lot smoother and a lot more enjoyable, and actually gets a lot classier and upscale to it, and forms more into a higher up designer style. You would not guess that this was I think I picked this up for about $17 online, maybe $16, the same as the other ones. And you cannot guess from that dry down that it was a $16 fragrance. It smelled way higher quality than that. So I will say that this one, Najdia Tribute, is the better quality out of the whole line. It is the strongest, it is the richest, but it's also the most polarizing, but also the more unique. As far as seasonality and when you'd wear it, I think that this works way better for the cooler weather, fall, winter, and spring, not so much in the high heat of summer because it is very loud, strong with that leather and violet. It probably would not go over too well in the high heat of summer, but definitely in the cooler weather, I think this is a very formal fragrance, very rugged, very masculine, out on the town kind of style as well. You'd really have to know how to carry yourself if you're gonna wear this one, but it is the better quality one out of the line, and I really like it now that it's settled and I know how to go about wearing it. But still very enjoyable, and I still would recommend for you to try it out to see if you like it or not. It is Najdia Tribute. And there it is, guys, the Najdia line from Lattafa, a very small, concise line, but I think it has a lot of variety in it and different things to offer, from things that are great for the warm weather to things that are good for the cold weather. And one of these I think good for all year round, things that are more lively, bright, and fun, to things that are a little more dark, a little more serious and dense. All of these for under $20 each, and you can find most of them everywhere aside from one like I mentioned earlier. But I think if you want to get into Middle Eastern fragrances, or you already like Lattafa and you don't have these, I would highly recommend trying these out and seeing what you think about it. Personally, if you already have these or you want to get them, let me know what you think down in the comments below, or even if you have other fragrances from Lattafa that's your favorite, or things that clone some of the other things that these smell like. Let me know in the comments below. I love seeing what you all talk about, and I love looking at your suggestions. It gives me ideas of things that I want to talk about and buy in the future. And if you're watching this video and you're not subscribed to the channel, but you like what you see here, please consider subscribing, give us some support. There's a lot of things that I have planned for the future, and I'd love to have you along with me on this cheap fragrance journey, and hopefully I can help you discover something new along the way. And as usual, guys, that's all I have for today's video. Thank you for being right along here with me and for watching. I will see all of you again in the next video. Be blessed.